Welcome back to the channel, folks, and welcome back for one final visit to Telltale's The Walking Dead. The last stop on this rough, winding journey through a series that's seen some serious highs and some painful lows. Going back and revisiting Season 1 was like rediscovering an old favorite song. Every beat, every emotional gut punch hit just as hard as it did back in 2012. It reminded me why I fell in love with this game in the first place. But then Season 2 happened, and things started to slip. While it had its moments, it failed to recapture the magic, sidelining Clementine in her own story, and relying too heavily on forced drama. And then came A New Frontier, a season so aggressively average and safe that I struggled to even have an opinion on it. It wasn't bad, it wasn't good, it just existed, like a filler episode that lasted an entire season. Much like the TV show, The Walking Dead peaked early, then quickly lost its footing. What started as something special gradually became more of a slog. And by the time A New Frontier rolled around, my excitement for this series was hanging by a thread. I'll be honest, I didn't have high hopes for this one. Not just because the last two seasons let me down, but because Telltale Games itself collapsed before the game was even finished. The fact the final season was completed at all is a miracle. But against all odds, this game managed to do something I wasn't expecting. It actually delivered a decent conclusion. Is it perfect? No. But it is a satisfying ending to Clementine's journey. And for a series that's been stumbling for years, that's a bigger win than I ever thought I'd get. While calling it the second best season of the series isn't exactly high praise, considering the competition, I still walked away from it feeling good. And after everything, I think that's enough. So let's dive in one last time and break down what The Walking Dead, the final season, got right, what it could have done better, and how it finally gave Clem the send-off she deserved. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you're new to the channel. I'm hoping to get that silver plaque this year. Before getting into the story, let's briefly discuss the final season's troubled development. By 2018, Telltale Games was on the verge of collapse. Years of mismanagement, an unsustainable workload, and financial instability finally caught up with them. In September 2018, just after releasing episode 2 of the final season, the studio laid off nearly its entire staff. With no warning, the studio was effectively shut down, leaving the fate of the series and Clementine's story in limbo. For a moment, it looked like The Walking Dead would end unfinished, an abrupt and unceremonious fate for a franchise that helped put Telltale on the map. But then, Skybound Entertainment, the company owned by The Walking Dead creator Robert Kirkman, stepped in to save the project. With their newly formed Skybound Games, they reached out to as many former Telltale developers as possible, putting together the still not bitten team to finish the last 2 episodes. It wasn't a perfect process. Many former employees weren't able to return, and production had to be rebuilt from the ground up. But against all odds, the final season was completed. That said, the troubled development does show in the final product. For one, we have only 4 episodes instead of the usual 5. The first half of the season feels more polished and thought out, but the back half of the season feels rushed. Certain plot points aren't as fleshed out, and some ideas get abandoned quickly. The final season was fortunate enough to be finished at all, but it also serves as a reminder of just how fragile Telltale was by the end. Just one more thing to do before we jump into the final season. Let's do a quick little recap of the events of A New Frontier, in case you didn't watch that video or just need a refresher. I'm not going to go in depth, just the cliff notes of what Clementine was up to. After the events of Season 2 and whatever ending you chose unravels, Clem is on her own again, doing whatever it takes to survive with baby AJ. At some point, she joins the New Frontier, a well-organized group of former soldiers that follow a survival of the fittest philosophy. They don't believe in wasting resources on anyone who might slow them down, so when AJ gets sick and their doctor deems him a lost cause, they refuse to waste medicine on him. Clem refuses to accept that, stealing medicine to help him anyways, but since she broke their rules, they punish her by exiling her and taking AJ away. With no way to fight back, she's forced out and spends the next few years surviving alone, and believing AJ is actually dead. During her journey, she crosses paths with Javier Garcia, a former baseball player trying to keep his own family safe. Initially, Clem hides her past with the New Frontier from him, but when they reach Richmond, the group's main settlement, she's forced to reveal the truth. While helping Javi navigate the chaos of the group's leadership, she comes face to face with David, Javi's older brother, and one of their leaders, and learns that AJ is actually alive. The relief is overwhelming, and she learns that AJ is being kept somewhere outside of Richmond. By the end of the season, Clem parts ways with Javi and heads out on her own again, resolute in her mission to find AJ. The New Frontier had a lot of problems, but Clementine's personal story and personal growth was still a highlight for me. She wasn't a scared little girl anymore, dependent on others, and she'd evolved into a hardened survivor. However, she's still a kid, and despite how capable she is, it's still a considerable struggle for her to try to raise a child on her own.
What you doing there, goofball?
Pretending we got bullets.
Well, don't. It's getting on my nerves.
I don't like goofball.
Clem, having recovered AJ sometime after the events of last season, they've been surviving together for a few years now, alone and constantly on the move. Things haven't been perfect, supplies are low, and the closest thing they have to a home is their beat-up car. While Javi promised Clem she had a home to return to in Richmond after she found AJ, she's chosen to travel on her own instead. The reasons for why aren't explained until late in the game, and I'll be honest, it's not a satisfactory answer, but I'll leave that alone until much later. Now 16 years old, Clementine has fully come into her own as a hardened survivor, and has managed to keep AJ alive, healthy, and safe. She's taught him everything she can. How to handle a gun, how to stay quiet when hiding, how to tell when someone is dangerous, and how to take down walkers. But where Clem has struggled is in helping him grow emotionally. AJ is only 6 years old, though you wouldn't know it as he looks and behaves like a kid closer to 10 years old. But unlike Clementine, who at least had some memories of a life before everything collapsed, AJ was born into this world. He's never known a world without walkers, without death, without danger at every corner. His social skills are rough at best. He has no experience interacting with kids his own age, making him temperamental, blunt, and a little aggressive at times. While he does what Clem asks him to, AJ speaks his mind without a filter, and often struggles to understand social cues or why his misbehavior is wrong. Beyond that, AJ carries trauma that isn't fully explained until later, and his young age combined with his experiences has given him a skewed view of the world. To him, there are people and monsters, threats and non-threats, alive and dead. His black and white way of thinking can make him unpredictable, and Clem constantly struggles with teaching him morality in a world where right and wrong aren't so simple anymore.
Alright. Let's find some food.
In need of supplies, the pair stop at an abandoned train station to search for anything good. To my surprise, the final season has actually tweaked the combat, as now it feels like real combat instead of a series of QTEs. When equipped with a melee weapon like a knife, if you encounter a walker, you're prompted to either stun them or kill them outright. It doesn't mean much when fighting a lone walker, but when fighting a group, you can't just chain kills. Due to the long animation for pulling off a kill, a walker can get dangerously close while you're taking out another, which can result in instant death for Clem. So you have to juggle stunning one, killing the next, and then finish off the first after it recovers before moving on to the next one. You also have some long-range combat sections when you defend yourself using guns or a bow. The challenge here is pulling off quick headshots, as hitting a walker anywhere else on their body won't slow them down at all. It's not revolutionary stuff, and this was never an action-heavy series, but it keeps the combat engaging enough where you're not sleepwalking through it to get to the next conversation section. Entering the station, it looks mostly picked through, until they find a walker couple tied to chairs with a bottle of poison at their feet, and a note begging any strangers to leave them alone. Beyond them, a locked security door might hide some useful supplies. The keys are on one of the walkers, but grabbing them means to risk getting bit. You can opt to have AJ sneak through the opening in the grate, but he insists they should just kill the walkers. Despite Clem wanting to respect the deceased's wishes to be left alone, it'd be more dangerous to send AJ into the other room by himself, so I opt to just kill the walkers and grab the keys. Inside, AJ finds bullets for his revolver, but they're shit out of luck when it comes to food. That is, until they discover a trapdoor covered by a mattress, revealing a hidden stash of food inside. But their luck turns sour immediately when they set off a trap, and a grenade of all things rolls out. Clem barely has time to react before it detonates, sending her and AJ crashing to the floor. They're fine, but the noise draws a horde of walkers straight to them. You know, for a pair of people who had given up and asked to be left alone after they became walkers, It's weird that the previous occupants here booby-trapped their food supply, or that they gave up despite having a decent stash of food left to survive on. At least that's what I thought initially, but that trap might have been set after they died. But we'll get to that later. With no time to grab supplies, Clem and AJ fight their way back to the car. She jumps into the driver's seat, but they're quickly overrun by walkers. In the chaos of trying to fight them off and drive out of there, Clem crashes and totals the car. Dazed and barely conscious, Clem sees someone armed with a bow taking down the walkers. He pulls AJ from the wreckage, and despite struggling to go after him, Clementine ends up blacking out before she can. Sometime later, Clem wakes up in an unfamiliar bed, her forehead wrapped in bandages, and one hand taped to the frame. Disoriented, she breaks free and uses a palette knife to escape the room she's locked in. Stepping into the hallway, Clem hides when she hears someone coming, and then confronts a little boy with burn scars that's checking her room. Before she can make a move, someone raises a bow and orders her to drop the knife. After a tense standoff, the situation calms down and our new friend introduces himself. His name is Marlon. The kid checking on us is Tennessee, or 10 for short. Marlon was the one who rescued Clem and AJ after the crash. He apologizes about his precautions in locking up Clem, and tells her that AJ is doing fine, and Marlon will take her to him now.
So you've been surviving out there a while, huh?
Yeah, we've been on the road a long time.
Take it you know how to handle yourself? Don't usually see people our age alone out in the wild.
Clem now finds herself in what remains of Bullworth Academy. Oh, I'm sorry, I mean the Erickson School for Troubled Youth. Marlon and his group made up of the former students who were living here when the world ended. Marlon is the leader of the Erickson kids, the one keeping everything together after the school's faculty bailed. Most of the group looks up to him, trusting his judgment when it comes to survival. He carries the weight of responsibility heavily, enforcing strict rules to keep everyone safe, especially when it comes to staying within the safe zone around the school. As he leads Clem into the courtyard, explaining the situation at Erickson, he cuts his school tour short when walkers are spotted at the gates. Marlon quickly leaves to deal with them, telling Clem to head inside and follow the sound of music to find Lewis, the kid who's watching over AJ. Inside, Clem bumps into a girl named Ruby, angrily storming out of her room. Turns out that AJ bit her. Welp, so much for a good first impression with the kids here. Entering the room, Clem is reunited with AJ. He's fine, and while she's happy to see him, she questions why he bit Ruby. He explains that he didn't do it intentionally, and only because she snuck up on him. It's not explored until much later, but AJ's extreme reaction to being snuck up on is tied to the bigger trauma he's been dealing with since Clem found him. Once the pair are done catching up, Lewis properly introduces himself to Clem. He's been keeping AJ entertained by playing piano, and tries to lighten the mood with some jokes. Lewis is the most carefree of the Erickson group, always quick with a joke or sarcastic remark, even in the worst situations. While he can be annoying at times, the kid's got a good heart, and is always trying to lift the other's spirits. After retrieving her belongings, Clem gives AJ back his gun, which Lewis is a tad concerned about. She reassures him AJ knows how to use it, and while Lewis doesn't love the idea, he lets it go. Trying to make things less tense, Lewis starts playing the song Clementine on the piano. You know, oh my darling, oh my darling, oh my darling Clementine. That song Arnold's grandpa would sing from time to time on Hey Arnold. Literally the first place my mind goes to anytime I hear that song. And after playing that, he lets AJ take a crack at playing the piano too. The piano lesson is interrupted when Marlon rushes in. There's more walkers than usual swarming the area, and he needs all hands on deck to deal with them. Outside, we'll meet another of the Erickson kids, Violet, who not so subtly blames the walker problem on Clem due to the explosion and car crash she caused. While she gives a frosty first impression, Violet grows on you, and she ends up being one of my favorite characters from this season. Violet is reserved, sarcastic, and a bit of a loner compared to the rest of the group. She has a tough exterior, but it's clear she cares about the people around her, even if she has trouble expressing it. Still dealing with the loss of someone she cared for, Violet is unwilling to trust others easily, though she slowly warms up to Clem as the episode progresses. Putting aside their bickering, the kids get to work clearing out all the walkers. The Erickson group is surprisingly capable in the absence of adults, as they've rigged rock traps and falling logs to defend against the undead or other intruders. Come to think of it, they're probably the most intelligent group to pop up in this series, as every other one I can remember just relied on walls and guns until shit inevitably fell apart. Kudos, kiddos, you're smarter than the majority of adults in this universe. Clem and the others clear out most of the walkers, giving the hunting party made up of Brody, Asim, and Mitch a path to return to the school safely. They aren't completely in the clear, and Clem almost gets herself bitten when helping Asim, but she's saved by Marlon's dog, Rosie.
Good girl. Shh, hey. It's all right, girl, it's all right. Hey, see you and Rosie are making friends.
Had a bad experience with the dog once.
Well, Rosie here can help you get over it.
Oh yeah, I almost forgot about Clem's encounter with a stray dog back in the opening of Season 2. Nice callback. The final season has several callbacks to previous seasons, but they're less hey, remember this type of thing, and more reminders of the events that shaped and helped Clem grow. The battle against the walkers over, everyone settles back inside the school for safety. Though Marlon makes the mistake of sneaking up on AJ, which results in the kid elbowing him in the nuts.
Come on, y'all. Food's
AJ!
Oof, I felt that one. Marlon doesn't take it personally, but warns that the others won't take to AJ with the way he's behaving. Clem agrees and tries to get AJ to understand why his behavior is wrong. The two of them then go around the courtyard to meet everyone, and have AJ apologize to Marlon for the nutshot and Ruby for biting her. After the pleasantries and apologies are done, Clem and AJ check in on Ten and Violet. They're at the school's graveyard, leaving flowers for Ten's sisters Minerva and Sophie, who died a year ago. Ten is one of the more soft-spoken and thoughtful members of the group. Losing his sisters deeply affected him, but unlike the others, he doesn't see death as something to fear. Ten doesn't see death as the end, and clings to the idea that people can be reunited in the afterlife. He's welcoming to Clem and AJ, showing more patience when our goofball acts up or doesn't understand something. Being close in age, AJ quickly grows attached to Ten, opening up to him faster than anyone else at the school. Since mourning the dead is a new concept to AJ, he asks if they should pay their respects, and you can decide if he should or shouldn't, with both Ten and Violet appreciating it if you do. Finally, AJ apologizes to Marlon for punching him in the nuts. He accepts and Lewis will call everyone over. Dinner is finally ready. Everyone sits down together to eat, and since it's been a long time since they've had a proper meal, AJ scarfs it down, burping loudly and upsetting Ruby with his lack of manners. Which, I don't see it as too big a deal. Ignoring AJ's age, I'd be amazed if anyone left in this world had half-decent table manners anymore. After dinner, Lewis starts a card game. Whoever pulls the highest card gets to ask Clementine a question. And if she wins, she's the one to ask questions. Violet wins the first round and opens up with a heavy question, asking what happened to AJ's parents. I have Clem be honest and upfront with the fact that AJ's parents are dead. The second round has Clem win, and I have her ask the others what's the grossest thing they've ever eaten. After they all answer, they ask Clem the same, and she answers a human leg. While she says it as a joke, she's being honest, referring to that time in Season 1 where we met the cannibalistic St. John family, who tricked Clem and several others in her group into eating the meat from another survivor, Mark's, leg. Marlon wins the next round and hits Clem with another heavy question. Impressed with her survival skills and assuming she wasn't always on her own, he asks who used to take care of her. I'm not going to get into the other questions, but depending on your choices, Clementine can bring up Lee, Javi, make fun of Marlon's haircut, and finally reveal that the first person she killed was Lee, which completely ruins the mood and brings an end to their game. Though Lewis apologizes for asking the question. Marlon will let Clem and AJ stay the night, saying that in the morning they'll discuss letting the two join their group permanently. The pair will settle into their room, AJ sitting down to draw when Violet walks in. Ten needed some more art supplies, so she dropped by to look for a coloring box that once belonged to Sophie, which AJ is now using. While she's willing to let him have it, I get Clem to talk the kid into giving them to Ten instead, which Violet appreciates. I didn't mention this earlier, but a big part of this season is how Clem's actions will shape the type of person AJ becomes. Whether he learns to open up and become a more compassionate kid, or become more selfish, sinking further into his black and white view of the world. It's kind of like what Lee was doing with her in Season 1, and to a certain extent what Javi was doing in A New Frontier. Honestly, while I gave the last season a lot of flack, it probably implemented this idea the best out of all the seasons. How often Javi backed up Clem's decisions and sided with her would change how the season ended. Unfortunately, that's not the case here, as while certain things will be different in the ending depending on your choices, very little of it has to do with how you treat AJ. Normally, I'd be more critical about it, but I'm assuming the devs wanted to use and improve the system they introduced in A New Frontier, but all the development issues caused by Telltale Games going under forced them to ditch their plans and focus on finishing the story. Violet thanks AJ for giving her the crayons, and she reflects on her lost friends, mentioning that Sophie was artistic, while Minerva, or Minnie as most of them call her, was musical. She doesn't say it outright, but it's obvious she takes Minnie's death the hardest, as it's heavily implied the two are more than friends. Clem asks what happened to them, but Violet only says they never came back from a scavenging trip with Marlon and Brody. Violet will take her leave, and before bed, Clem hangs up AJ's drawing, a picture of him protecting her. Unlike the other seasons, this is the first one to add some extra replayability to the game, outside of the usual dialogue choices and outcomes. Each episode has a set of collectibles you can discover while exploring a level, and can be put on display in Clem's room. It's not much, and I suspect it was probably meant to be more fleshed out, but hey, I'll take it. Despite the chance to sleep on a comfy bed, AJ feels safer sleeping under it and not on it. But you can get Clem to talk the kid into trying to sleep on the mattress. As the two drift to sleep, AJ mentions how happy he is that they're not in the car anymore. For the first time in a long time, it feels like they might finally have a place to call home.
He's gonna let us stay, right? I guess we're gonna find out. Let's find his office.
I know where it is. I'll show you.
The next morning, Clem and AJ make their way upstairs towards Marlon's office. He isn't there yet, and instead they find Ten playing with his toys. A curious AJ is confused on what they're supposed to be, again reinforcing how the kid doesn't know a thing about the old world, so he wouldn't understand the roles of a policeman or a firefighter. It also reinforces his lack of socialization when he tries to take Ten's toys for himself before Clem stops him. AJ has a lot of moments like this, so I'll try to avoid bringing up every instance to avoid sounding redundant, and focus on the more critical moments. Ten goes to get Marlon, who returns just as Rosie startles Clem again. Marlon calms her down and shows Clem how to get Rosie to trust her. He explains that she was once the headmaster's dog but became the kid's protector after the adults abandoned them. They've been doing a decent job surviving, but Marlon would like Clem and AJ to join them. Marlon moves to his desk and pulls out a map detailing the area around Erickson. Due to the dense forest, it serves as a buffer to protect them from other groups. They've set up a designated safe zone, an area where they hunt and scavenge. Anything beyond it is too dangerous, as they've learned the hard way when they lost some of their group in the past. Food supplies are running low in the safe zone, but they can't risk carelessly venturing out of it either. So for now, Marlon wants Clem to help the others gather food. She agrees and can choose between fishing with Violet and Brody, or hunting with Lewis and Asim. I decided to have her go fishing with the girls. When Marlon said we were going fishing, I didn't know he meant spear fishing. Though I guess sharpening a stick into a spear to hunt is easier in the post-apocalypse than building and maintaining a fishing rod. You can't attach a piece of string to wood and expect to catch fish easily. Though I am disappointed we didn't have a fun fishing minigame. Always the perfect distraction in any video game. Unfortunately, this isn't a very fun kids fishing adventure, as there's an air of tension between Violet and Brody. Brody pulls Clem aside, confiding that she thinks Violet resents her for what happened to Sophie and Minnie since she was there the day they died. But when Clem presses Violet later, she admits she doesn't actually blame Brody. She blames herself. Violet was supposed to be on that hunting trip, but she backed out at the last minute and asked Brody to go in her place. Ever since, she's been haunted by the thought that if she'd been there, maybe she could have saved Minnie. Clem can reassure her not to blame herself and pushes Violet to try to be nicer to Brody. And the little fishing trip ends with both girls on friendlier terms. As they head back, the group stumbles upon a broken trap, one that looks deliberately sabotaged. The group starts searching the area for clues, and Clem finds a used cigarette made up of a rolled Bible page. Whoa, smoking up the word of the Lord? That's blasphemy right there, buddy. AJ also discovers a walker hanging upside down, already killed. Not long after, Lewis and Asim arrive, explaining that more of their traps have been sabotaged, with some of their animals clearly stolen. Brody, who's been rather chill since we've met her, panics over what's happening. While she manages to settle her nerves, she insists Marlon has to know what's happening and leaves the others to figure out the food situation. Seems Brody might know something we don't. Clem looks at Marlon's map, trying to think of a solution. Despite being outside the safe zone, she suggests checking the train station we accidentally blew up at the beginning of the episode. Some food supplies might have survived the blast. Lewis and Violet are unsure, especially since it's probably swarming with walkers now, but they agree to go. When the kids arrive at the train station, it's already dark out, and like they speculated, the place is now swarming with walkers. Using a bell they find, Lewis will act as a distraction to keep the walkers' attention, while the others sneak past. Violet will keep guard outside the station while Clem and AJ see what food they can scavenge. They look out and find some food that survives a grenade blast, but before they can load up, a man steps inside, gun drawn.
Stand. Slowly. Don't yell. Don't try anything. I won't hurt you.
His name is Abel, and the Bible cigarette in his mouth makes it obvious who was responsible for sabotaging their traps. Really, a guy named Abel smoking Bible cigarettes? It's a little bit on the nose. What's next? We're gonna find out he had a brother named Cain who he killed? Actually, wait, that's the reverse, isn't it? Well, whatever. Abel demands the kids give up their food, while also fishing for questions on where they're from and how big their group is. Also, it's not outright said, but the food probably belongs to Abel and his group in the first place, which explains why it was booby-trapped with a grenade. Abel tries to take the food by force, but AJ gets the drop on him, and I have Clem shove his ass out the window into a crowd of walkers. Welp, at least we don't have to deal with that asshole anymore. Grabbing the goods, the pair get the hell out of there and regroup with the others, running back to the safety of Erickson. Back at the school, the kids are happy to see Clem and the others arrive with a big haul of food. The celebration is soured when Brody finds out they encountered someone outside the safe zone, and starts panicking that Abel's group might discover them. Marlon tries to calm Brody down, telling her there's nothing to worry about, but she keeps freaking out, implying she and Marlon know something the others don't. Storming off after shoving Marlon to the ground, he tries to smooth things over with Clem before leaving to try and talk sense into Brody. The rest of the kids will enjoy some dinner, and afterwards, Clem and AJ will sit down to talk to Ten, who's drawing a picture of all the Erickson kids, offering to include them in his drawing. Aw, that's sweet. Later that night, as Clem tries to sleep, she overhears faint yelling and heads outside to investigate. The voices are coming from the basement, and she soon discovers it's Brody and Marlon arguing over something. Marlon spots Clem eavesdropping and tries to convince her it's all a misunderstanding. Brody spills that they know and have history with Abel, before revealing the secret Marlon's been desperately trying to hide.
Marlon let him take the twins. Him and his people.
Brody!
10 sisters. I thought they were killed by walkers.
That's the story we told everyone.
Shut up!
Because Marlon was so ashamed of what...
Marlon, realizing how badly he's fucked up, begs Brody to hang on while he looks around for a first aid kit. As she starts fading, she warns Clem that Marlon is really afraid of those raiders, and that if they come a-knocking again, he'll end up giving her and AJ to them, and then the poor girl dies. A panicked Marlon then takes off, apologizing as he locks Clem down in the cellar. Moving to find something she can use to bust out, Clem needs to move fast, as Brody has reanimated as a walker. It's brief, but this is a genuinely unnerving and scary segment. Clem slowly moving through the darkness, her flashlight barely illuminates much of the area, the sounds from Brody coming from all around her, like she could strike at any moment. And when she comes rushing, you have to frantically try to break out of the cellar, before being forced to put poor Brody down once and for all. Once outside, Clem sees all the other kids gathered around Marlon, with AJ holding him at gunpoint. He's panicking even more, claiming that Clem killed Brody, but the others are quickly poking holes in what he's saying. His whole story and image as a well-meaning leader finally crumbles when Clem exposes him.
That's bullshit, Marlon! Clem! You killed Brody. You hit her so hard, her head split open.
That's a lie! I saw you kill her!
I love this entire scene. The storm and the music set the perfect stage for Marlon's breakdown. Despite his pleas that he's innocent, that they should trust him and not a newcomer like Clem, his group doesn't entirely buy it. But they're still willing to give him a chance to listen to Marlon's side even when Clem reveals that he gave up the twins to the raiders. Even if you appeal to Lewis or Violet, they still won't completely side with Clem because they've known Marlon longer. But he ends up being his own undoing. His panicked behavior and how he carelessly points his gun at everyone slowly turns the others against him. When Marlon slips and tries to justify sacrificing the twins for the sake of the group, and that he'd do it again, he loses all sympathy. The other kids immediately turn on him, angry he sees them all as so expendable. It's not until 10 calls him out for lying to him about his sister's death that Marlon finally caves and admit he was afraid. He had no clue what he was supposed to do and he made a bad choice. This is probably some of the best writing I've seen from the series since the first season. Marlon isn't a bad guy, some sadistic tyrant trying to cling to his position and power. He's a scared kid who was dealt a bad hand. Marlon was forced to look out for the other kids because all the adults ran away and abandoned them. He was forced into being a leader with no idea on what to do. When he faced a threat he had no clue how to handle, Marlon panicked and chose what at the time seemed like the safest option. He desperately tried to hide what he did, not because he feared losing his power, but because Marlon didn't want the others to lose faith in him, to have his weakness and struggles exposed. And now that the rest of the group can see that, they don't forgive him for what he's done, but they want him to stand down, to try and find a way for him to make up for what he's done. He's still their friend after all. As Marlon finally relents, dropping the gun and standing down, it sets the stage for what could be an interesting character arc. Will the others ever forgive his actions? Will Marlon find a way to redeem himself? These are questions that, unfortunately, we'll never get answers to, as episode 1 comes to an abrupt and shocking end.
Just let me become a bad memory. Just give me that. Please.
Fine.
What? I aimed for the head.
I made you some coffee. It was in the kitchen. Tin said that I can have some. I didn't steal it.
I'm surprised you remember how to make it. We haven't had coffee in a long time.
You put it in hot water.
You're right. Thanks.
Episode 2 begins the morning after AJ 360 no-scoped Marlon in the head, and things are understandably tense at the Erickson School for Troubled Youth. AJ is in low spirits. He still doesn't understand what he did was wrong, and why the other kids who were nice to him are all mad at him now. AJ feels hurt, and asks Clem if he's really a murderer like the others are saying. You're given the choice to spare his feelings, or show AJ some tough love by laying out the truth to him. Marlon was bad for everything he did, but he wasn't a threat anymore. And regardless of the reasons for why, killing him is still murder. AJ doesn't take the news well and asks if they're going to be kicked out now. The scene then shifts back to the previous night, all the Erickson kids turning on Clem, questioning how she's been raising AJ. Before things get out of hand, Violet steps in and tries to de-escalate the situation, telling Clem to take AJ inside while she talks to the others. Considering how unpredictable AJ is, the kids have good cause for not feeling safe around him, and kicking him out. Someone who does still have their back though is 10, who drops in to invite them to Brody and Marlon's funerals. Unlike the others, and partially because Marlon lied about what happened to his sisters, 10 doesn't think AJ is a bad person. He understands he's a kid who doesn't understand his actions, and he tries to cheer him up by giving him his firefighter toy. The funerals go as well as expected, with all the other kids giving Clem and AJ the silent treatment or stink eye. Violet tries to give a eulogy but can't, unwilling to forgive Marlon for giving up Sophie and Minnie, which agitates Mitch, who is seething that the rest of the group is cutting AJ and Clem any slack for Marlon's death. While he's mostly agitated with Lewis and Violet, Mitch demands that they put it to a vote on whether the pair should stay or not. Spoilers, after the episode intro, Violet will deliver the bad news to Clem and AJ. The group has voted to kick them out. In fact, only 3 people voted for them to stay. Violet, 10, and one other person who's revealed later. Scooping up their things, Clem and AJ are escorted to the edge of the safe zone by Violet and Lewis. On their own again, before Clem can plan their next move, someone takes a shot at her and AJ. It's Abel. Despite looking like he was done for last time we saw him, Clem speculates he survived by lopping off his infected arm before he turned. Getting the drop on him, Clem manages to overpower Abel and have him at her mercy. Unfortunately, he brought a friend with him this time to back him up, and it's a familiar face from Clementine's past.
Oh my god. Clementine, it's you? My name is Lily. You probably don't remember me. It's been a while. Lily? I thought you died.
Quick little refresher, but we met Lily way back in episode 1 of season 1. After Lee, Clem, Kenny, and his family were booted off of Herschel Green's farm, they traveled down south to Macon. While there, they would make contact with another group of survivors holed up in a drugstore. Carly, Doug, Mark from Invincible, Lily, and her deadbeat dad, Larry. Formerly part of the Air Force, Lily was a fairly capable survivor, and was a relatively friendly, if tough woman. Unfortunately, her father brought out the worst in her, as Lily was constantly making excuses for Larry's abrasive behavior. Despite their conflicting personalities, the two groups would come together and survive at a rundown hotel for several months. However, Lily was constantly butting heads with Kenny over whether they should stay at the motel or abandon it to head to Savannah in search of a boat. Things would only get worse after our wacky encounter with the cannibal St. John family, as Larry would suffer a massive heart attack while the group was captured. Kenny, convinced the old man was dead, or about to die, wanted to avoid a situation where they were locked in with a hulking Larry Walker. Regardless of whether you have Lee's side with him or Lily, Kenny would still cave in Larry's head, with Lily sobbing and forced to watch. Needless to say, it was nothing but a downward spiral for her going forward. Lily became increasingly paranoid, aggressive, and spiteful. When the motel was attacked by raiders and became overrun by walkers, the group was forced to go on the run in Kenny's RV. During their short road trip, Kenny is forced to stop after hitting a walker, causing Lily and Carly to get into a huge fight. Lily would then gun down Carly in cold blood, and I ditched her ass on the side of the road, leaving her to an unknown fate. Some of what happened with Lily is different depending on your choices, but that's how things played out during my run. I brought this up in the video on season 1, but originally Lily was supposed to be the character with the same name from the comics and novels. Upon the release of the Road to Woodbury novel, which features a different backstory for Lily than the Telltale series, the devs retconned and removed all references to both Lilies being the same character, which is what allowed them to bring her back for the final season. Lily is now part of a group known as the Delta, who have been at war with another community seemingly for years now. Serving as a lieutenant within the Delta and leading her own squad of raiders, Lily's group has been hitting smaller communities and forcibly conscripting them to fight for their side in the war. That's what happened to Sophie and Minnie when Marlon encountered them a year ago. Which I found to be a pretty good twist, as I assumed the twins' fate was worse and that they were going to be used as sex slaves by Abel's group. I'll be honest, I'm a bit mixed on the decision to have Lily pop up. On the one hand, unlike Kenny, whose story was done in season 1, and ended up rehashing the same beats when he reappears in season 2, there was still more to explore with Lily. On the other hand, the game fails to use her effectively enough to justify her return. In her initial reunion with Clementine, you see this internal conflict start to stir in Lily as she drops the tough guy act upon seeing her. At first I thought she'd struggle with her mission, and question if it's right to force Clem to join her fight because of their previous connection. In turn, Clementine might struggle fighting Lily because she's the last living connection she has to Lee, and those slightly better days when she was younger. But then I quickly realized that these two don't have any kind of relationship. Like, yeah, they knew each other, but Lily wasn't ever motherly or sweet to Clem, and Clem clung to Lee like glue. She barely ever interacted with Lily. Which the writers probably realized too, as they don't bother to go that route at all. Instead, Lily tries manipulating Clem, agreeing that Lee was right to leave her by the side of the road for what she did, that she was an obvious danger to the others, before bizarrely claiming that maybe Lee would still be alive now if he left Clem behind too, and Clementine might end up dying trying to take care of AJ. Like, I see what she's doing. She's trying to gaslight Clementine into thinking she's not as capable as she thinks, and joining the Delta is the only way she can guarantee AJ's safety. Which is fine, typical bad guy behavior. The problem is anyone could do this. Any generic raider. Any random person from Clem's past. Since Lily doesn't and can't exploit her relationship with Clementine, There's no reason for her to be here. I hated Kenny reappearing in Season 2, but at least the story utilized his return to create drama and conflict for Clem. As well here, even with the optional choices, Clementine never mulls over having to fight and possibly kill Lily. I'll leave the discussion alone for now, as how the next few episodes play out end up strengthening my argument. While Lily tries to win over Clem, Lewis and Violet show up, having heard Abel's initial gunshots after they parted ways. Clem will tell Violet to shoot, hitting Lily with an arrow to the shoulder. But poor Lewis catches some buckshot in return when Abel fires back. The commotion gives Clem and AJ a chance to run for it, but Lily and Abel quickly give chase. Our little goofball unfortunately takes some buckshot to the stomach, and despite his tenacity, he runs out of steam and has to stop when his injury proves too much. Clem will desperately try to keep him safe, killing as many walkers as she can. Just as all hope seems lost, we encounter something really bizarre. A friendly and seemingly sentient walker. One who picks up a rock and uses it to distract the rest of the herd, before telling Clem to follow him to safety. It becomes obvious our savior isn't actually a walker, and just a guy dressed up as one. Following him to his camp, he helps Clem treat AJ's injuries before he introduces himself. His name is James, a former member of the Whisperers.
I didn't mean to endanger you. The walkers were sent to help you.
You sent the walkers?
Was part of a group. Call themselves Whisperers. They've learned to live in herds, among walkers. Move among them. Sometimes guide them.
Hey wait, I recognize that voice. It's Johnny Young Bosch, who, depending on your age and fandom, you either know as Ichigo Kurosaki from Bleach, Nero from Devil May Cry, Adachi from Persona 4, various other anime and video games, or if you're a real one, you probably remember him as the second Black Power Ranger, Adam.
I'm a frog.
Man, it's been a minute since I've had one of these remember this person from this thing moment in a video. Of all the factions to appear in this game, I wasn't expecting the Whisperers, even if it's just James. In the comics and show, the Whisperers were a brutal group that survived by wearing the skin faces of walkers, blending in with the dead to move undetected. They didn't just use the undead as tools, they became them, shedding their names, emotions, and attachments, living by a savage survival of the fittest mentality. They were a deadly force that could wipe out entire communities without ever engaging them directly. James is a rare case, someone who left that life behind. Unlike the other Whisperers who fully embraced their lifestyle, he regretted his past actions. Instead of using walkers as weapons, he sees them as something to be protected. His belief that they might still have a shred of humanity left isn't just some idealistic nonsense. It's shaped by first-hand experience, making him one of the more unique perspectives we've seen in the series. And honestly, James fascinates me. In a world where survival often comes down to kill or be killed, he's a complete pacifist. Not just toward people, but walkers too. Most characters see the dead as either a threat or a tool, but James pities them, treating them like lost souls rather than monsters. It's a perspective I never really considered before, and it actually made me stop and think about its merits. While I want to get into it now, I think it's better to save the bigger discussion about why James feels the way he does until the next episode. After sharing some of his past as a Whisperer, James explains he's been living in solitude, watching Lily's group from a distance. He informs Clem about the Delta and their ongoing war up north. He offers AJ food and warns Clem that AJ's injury needs proper medical attention. Clem realizes the only way to help AJ is by returning to Erickson, which he does the next morning with James's help. After James leaves, Lewis rushes out to help carry AJ inside. Ruby immediately gets to work treating AJ's injuries, while Clem privately fills Violet in on everything, including our history with Lily and the imminent threat from the Delta. The two quickly formulate a plan to fortify Erickson, setting traps around the school, limiting Delta's movements, and using barbed wire to prevent anyone from scaling the walls. The barbed wire they need is in the Erickson's greenhouse, an area Marlon declared unsafe due to being overrun with walkers. As Clem figures out how to safely retrieve it, Mitch bursts in, furious that Clem and AJ were allowed to come back inside despite being voted out. Violet firmly reminds him that turning away an injured AJ wasn't an option, and they have way bigger issues to face. She instructs Mitch to help Clem retrieve supplies from the greenhouse, sending Ruby along as a mediator to help keep things civil. I wasn't sure if Mitch was even worth mentioning as a character, as he's fairly one note. He's idolized by another kid, Willie, and has a decent knack for crafting explosives. But aside from being understandably hostile towards AJ for killing Marlon, Mitch doesn't have much going for him. He's not poorly written, but he's mostly just there. Ruby also falls into that category. She's essentially the group's surrogate mom, and the one who treats all their injuries, though later we learn she used to have severe anger issues, which led to her being sent to Erickson in the first place. Arriving at the greenhouse, we find out that how dangerous it actually is may have been greatly exaggerated, as Marlin and Violet justified staying away from it because it was swarming with walkers when there's only like three walkers. They easily killed like 4 times as much the other day defending the school without breaking a sweat. Guess we can write that one off as Marlin being too cowardly to deal with the issue. It also goes to show how rocky his leadership was, as there's plenty of plants and herbs still growing in here they could have used for food and medicine. After exploring the greenhouse, we find the barbed wire we need, along with propane and fertilizer Mitch wanted in order to make a bomb. They also discover the walker of Miss Martin, the school's nurse, and the only adult who stayed behind with the kids when everything fell apart. Ruby explains she learned first aid from Miss Martin, who stayed in the greenhouse to protect students from walkers but was assumed missing. It's unclear why no one knew her true fate. Maybe Marlin hid the truth, but either way, Clem respectfully puts her down, and Ruby insists on giving Miss Martin a proper burial. Later that night, Lewis pops in to see how AJ is doing, and to give him some of Ten's old pajamas. While the rest of the Erickson kids have come around to the idea of letting Clem and AJ stay, Mitch included, Lewis is the only one still on the fence. He took Marlin's betrayal and death the hardest, not just because his best friend is gone for good, but also Lewis never realized just how much Marlin was struggling. So AJ's presence is a reminder of his own failings in saving his friend. You know, I really came around to like Lewis. I thought he was just going to be the annoying jokester character during most of the story, but he has a surprising amount of deep moments, and stays fairly active throughout the story even if you favor Violet in your decision making. Lewis isn't quite ready to forgive AJ, but he slowly opens back up to the kid during this episode. The game then jumps ahead 2 weeks, with Erickson now fully fortified and ready for the Delta's attack. At the end of this brief time skip, Clementine experiences an intense nightmare. She's walking down the empty halls of the school, passing a dying horse, slowly approaching a set of doors glowing with an intense red light. The closer she gets, the louder the screams and gunfire become, until she jolts awake just as she opens the doors. Initially, I thought this dream was either a premonition, or simply Clem's fears of how badly things would go when the Delta arrives. However, the nightmare is actually about the circumstances under which Clem originally found and reunited with AJ. It sets up a compelling mystery with a satisfying payoff later, but the timing of the reveal isn't ideal. I'll circle back to this later. The following morning, Clem checks in with Violet to see how preparations against the Delta are going. Everyone is more or less ready, but tension is high due to Lily and her group taking much longer than expected to attack. Clem goes around helping with preparations and lifting everyone's spirits. After which, Lewis helps ease the tension further with another card game. Once their break ends, Clem is given a choice: either join Violet in inspecting the school's defenses from the bell tower, or help Lewis with his special project. I've neglected to mention this until now, but the choice between Violet and Lewis also opens up the option for Clementine to romance one of them. A New Frontier had something similar with Javi and his brother's wife Kate, where your choices determined if they became a couple, remained friends, or if Kate would ultimately leave or die. Honestly, I wasn't a fan of that romance. The game heavily pushed players towards romancing Kate, and at times her behavior felt manipulative rather than genuinely affectionate toward Javi. Here, the romance is handled much better. Both Lewis and Violet have genuinely good chemistry with Clementine, and it feels natural that they would develop feelings for each other. The game doesn't push you toward one character over the other, and whoever you don't choose never becomes jealous or bitter. Best of all, you can even opt not to romance either, and just have Clementine stay friends with both. My only minor criticism is that the option to start a romantic relationship feels like it comes a bit too early. It might have felt more meaningful toward the end of the game, after Clem and our partner have endured so much hardship together. Still, this small nitpick doesn't detract from the overall experience. If you're curious, I chose to ship Clementine with Violet.
Holy shit. That's romantic.
I mean, holy shit.
Have you ever been walking down the street with your best bro, and while you're walking you accidentally touch hands? You think to yourself, that was weird, but I'm not gay. You are. You are gay.
These two are just really cute together. I love their little stargazing date, and their personalities complement each other really well. After Clem makes things official with her waifu, she'll check in on AJ at the watch post. The pair spot horses hauling a cage through a crowd of walkers, with a group of people moving with them. It's the Delta. The time has finally come to confront Lily and her group. Clem rallies the troops, readying them for battle, but her speech is abruptly cut short when a Delta sniper shoots Omar in the leg. Oh yeah, Omar is another one of the kids here at Erickson, but he's so underdeveloped you easily forget he's even there. Clem quickly helps him to cover, and the other kids scatter as the Delta effortlessly breaches the gate. Bow drawn, Clem confronts Lily, taunting her for not killing her when she had the chance, confident that she won't do it now. Lily tries to break Clem's confidence by bringing up Lee, claiming he'd be disappointed in the person she's become. The scene attempts to show Lily having an internal conflict about killing Clem, but honestly, it doesn't quite land for me. Lily clearly needs Clem alive as a valuable soldier, so this hesitation feels forced rather than genuine. Clem notices Mitch sneaking towards the enemy with the bomb, and keeps Lily talking to buy him time. Realizing Clem isn't going to surrender, Lily shifts tactics by mentioning Minnie, claiming how happy and thriving she is with the Delta, missing all her friends, and especially her little brother 10. The poor kid, desperate to see his sisters again, falls right into Lily's trap and is quickly taken hostage. Luckily, Mitch's bomb detonates at just the right moment, allowing 10 to escape in the chaos. Mitch then recklessly charges at Lily, but she easily counters and stabs him through the throat, brutally finishing him off out of frustration. Dropping all pretense, Lily orders her group to kill any resistance and capture the remaining kids. The group retreats into the school, setting off traps to fight out the Delta. Clem kills one raider with a log trap and knocks another one out cold, but soon ends up in a brutal struggle with Abel. The fight spills onto the balcony before both come crashing down to the courtyard below, with Abel breaking Clem's fall and badly injuring his leg in the process. Before Clem can finish him off, Lily holds her at gunpoint. Clem tries to reason with her, causing Lily to hesitate just enough for Lewis to disarm her. In the chaos, Clem spots Violet struggling against a raider, while Lewis is being captured nearby. Forced to choose, I have Clem save her new girlfriend, resulting in Lily successfully capturing Lewis, along with Asim and Omar. She then decides to cut her losses and orders her group to retreat, covering their escape with fire. After the dust settles, the kids mourn Mitch's death, and try to figure out their next move. 10 apologizes for falling for Lily's trap, and while the group isn't sure where their friends were taken, Clem reassures everyone that not all hope is lost.
Well, we've got someone who does.
The morning following the fight against the Delta, as most of the kids do their best cleaning up and rebuilding their defenses, Clem and AJ head to the basement to interrogate their hostage. Man, for a guy built like a crack addict, Abel can endure a serious amount of injuries.
Shit.
That's a lot of blood.
Oh, fuck. This is not good.
He's gonna die, isn't he?
Oh, well, I guess not. While he most likely ruptured some of his organs from the fall off the balcony, I like to think Clementine actually has iron fists, and she annihilated his insides with body blows during their fight. For a cocky scumbag who's been causing us nothing but trouble since we met him, I still can't help but pity Abel when he realizes he's going to die. Barely able to breathe, his strength gone, and visibly terrified that his time is up, Abel looks so weak and pathetic. Even AJ, who's been fantasizing about killing Abel for days, can't help but sympathize with him. Knowing he's dead no matter what, and desperate to avoid becoming a walker, Abel cuts a deal. He'll give up Lily's location in exchange for Clementine putting him out of his misery. She agrees, and he spills that they've got a boat docked at a river nearby. Clem's got a few days before Lily and the others ship out to regroup with the rest of the Delta. Now that we know where his friends are, we honor the deal and shove a knife into Abel's head to end his suffering. As fucked up as this is about to sound, I think it's actually important AJ witnessed this. One of AJ's biggest issues is his black and white worldview when it comes to killing monsters and bad people. He doesn't fully grasp what death means yet. It's easy to instantly drop someone with a headshot, but it's something else entirely to watch someone suffer and slowly fade away. Seeing Abel broken down, begging to die peacefully, genuinely shook AJ. The kid dropped all his anger towards Abel immediately, and his deep regret over Marlon's death shows that he's finally developing empathy. It's a harsh lesson, sure, but one that might just save AJ from losing his humanity entirely. Of course, it's a fragile balance. Clem needs to stay careful, or AJ could still slip the other way. Later that day, Clem, along with AJ, Violet, and Willie, will come across the location of the Delta's boat. It's much bigger than any of them were expecting, which will make finding where their friends are being held tricky. Heavily guarded and with only one way onto the boat through the pier, they need a plan to sneak on board. Scouting the area, they spot a raft carrying supplies, and a pen where the Delta are keeping their horses. Clem thinks they could be used to create distractions, but that still leaves the problem of crossing the pier. With no cover, they'd be shot to pieces if they get spotted by the guards. So Clem proposes something drastic, luring a walker herd to the boat and hiding among them to sneak on board. The others aren't particularly sold on the idea and question how they can pull that off without being eaten. Just so happens Clem knows a guy who can help. Willie, having learned the fine art of bomb crafting from Mitch before his passing, suggests planting a bomb on the ship to cover their escape after they've saved their friends, which Clem agrees to. As the group leave the area, they spot a lone Delta soldier chopping wood, and Clem seizes the opportunity to grill the girl for information on their group. However, Violet will interfere when she recognizes the girl being interrogated. Oh my god, it's V from Cyberpunk 2077!
That's Minnie.
After the attack, I wasn't sure. I mean, I heard they burned half your school down. Who survived? Ruby? Mitch? Brody? 10?
Ruby and 10 made it. Mitch didn't. And Brody, she died.
I mean, it's Minnie, 10's missing sister, who, doesn't really look like she's related to him. The developers confirm that 10 is adopted, but I don't think anything in the game actually states that, so I was left scratching my head for a bit wondering why Minnie was white when her younger brother is black. Their reunion with Minnie isn't exactly heartwarming. The cheerful girl Violet once knew is long gone. Instead, Minnie is now a broken, hollow shell of herself, running on autopilot as an obedient soldier of the Delta. She clearly suffers from Stockholm Syndrome, deeply resenting Clementine for convincing the Erickson kids to fight back against Lily and the others. Minnie insists they should have joined willingly, rationalizing that no one would have gotten hurt, even downplaying the betrayal when Marlon handed her and Sophie over. It's genuinely unsettling, watching her justify everything she's gone through. Minnie has the demeanor of an abuse victim, fragile yet defensive, anxious yet conditioned to defend those who hurt her. We never learn exactly what horrors Minnie endured serving the Delta, but her behavior and conversation with Clem make it painfully clear it wasn't pleasant. Violet immediately calls bullshit on Minnie's warped beliefs, but Minnie stubbornly clings to the idea that life with the Delta, no matter how abusive, is still better than slowly starving to death at Erickson. She even confirms her twin sister Sophie is dead, disturbingly proud of her sister for dying a hero for the Delta's cause. Though some part of her old self is still in there, as when Lily shows up to check up on her, she doesn't immediately rat out the others. Minnie also subtly helps them by telling Clem she's got 2 days before the boat leaves, and it won't be until another 2 weeks pass that they'll return to try and recruit the Erickson kids again. Though she insists that when the Delta returns, Clem and the others just give up peacefully. That little timetable also neatly explains why Lily took 2 weeks to go after Clem again. She probably left to get help and supplies. Saying goodbye to Minnie, the group splits up. Violet and Willie head back to Erickson to plan for the raid on the boat. Meanwhile, Clem and AJ go off in search of James to get his help. Arriving at his camp, they find it busted up and swarming with walkers. James soon pops up with his arm injured. He explains that Lily and the Delta came through this area the previous night, carting away Louis, Sim, and Omar. After helping him get his mask from his camp, and avoiding killing any walkers like he has, James is hesitant in helping Clem. Before agreeing, James wants Clem to understand his perspective on walkers. He leads her and AJ to a barn filled with walkers he's collected, believing there's still a shred of humanity buried deep inside each of them. Something that's neither fully alive nor completely dead. To prove his point, James challenges Clem, wear his mask, enter the barn without killing any walkers, and ring a set of wind chimes. If she can do this, he'll help with the rescue. Clem accepts his challenge, leading to a surprisingly beautiful and haunting moment. Episode, but this scene in James' perspective really got me thinking. Could he actually be onto something here? I don't recall any other characters seriously proposing the idea that walkers might retain some sliver of their former humanity. The closest I can remember is Herschel Green from season 2 of the show, who kept walkers in his barn. But that was because early on he mistakenly believed they were just sick people who could eventually be cured. Other than Herschel's misguided beliefs, the Walking Dead franchise never seriously explored the idea that walkers could be anything more than mindless, instinct-driven eating machines. The main series hinted at walkers evolving some intelligence near the end, and I think one of the spin-offs experimented with super walkers, but no one ever directly suggested they might retain emotional or human qualities. It's honestly a compelling concept I wish the game had spent more time exploring. Unfortunately, maybe due to the development troubles at Telltale, the game doesn't dive deeper into this intriguing idea. Instead, it's used primarily to portray James as a bit unhinged, which feels like a missed opportunity given how genuinely fascinating his viewpoint is. After Clem leaves the barn, she doesn't completely buy into James' beliefs, but agrees that maybe there is something there. James isn't completely on board sacrificing the walkers to help Clem, but seeing the cruelty Lily's group is capable of, he's willing to help to keep Clem's friends from becoming cruel monsters like the Delta. With James signing on, Clem and AJ head back to Erickson to prepare for the raid on the boat later that night. When they arrive, they bump into Ruby carrying several pillows. She explains before the boat operation she wants to lift everyone's spirits by throwing a party. Clem agrees it's a good idea and will be along a little later to help set things up. Clem and AJ spend a quiet moment relaxing, leading AJ to open up about something that's been bothering him. He explains his theory that people have 3 kinds of eyes. Eyes of the living, monster eyes that look like dirty water, and eyes of those about to die, like Abel's, which look like a candle being blown out. AJ's developing empathy, but he's too young to fully grasp it. He hated Abel but felt sadness watching him suffer, and it confuses him because he thinks feeling sad for someone you hate is wrong. Clem reassures him that feeling empathy, even towards enemies, isn't a weakness, it's what makes him human. The conversation then shifts that AJ admits he's been having another recurring worry, Clementine turning into a walker. He's getting old enough to realize neither of them are invincible, and that thought terrifies him. Clem tries to reassure him by reminding AJ of the plan they made if she ever got bitten, but AJ stubbornly refuses to consider it. He rejects the idea of leaving Clem behind or putting her down. If Clem turns, AJ wants her to bite him too, choosing death together over a life without her. This moment perfectly highlights AJ's immaturity and emotional dependency. Despite Clem teaching him how to survive, AJ's entire existence revolves around her. She's his family, his protector, his entire world. Even though he's learning how to connect with others, AJ simply can't imagine a future without Clem, and his fear of losing her may cause him to make dangerous choices. It's a crucial realization. AJ's love and dependence on Clem could lead him to disobey her instructions and do whatever he believes is necessary to avoid being alone. I gotta hand it to the writers, they really nailed AJ's character. Writing kids convincingly is tough enough, but making AJ believable, a kid born into the apocalypse who's the complete opposite of your typical child, is even more impressive. He's not always the easiest character to like because his mood swings are wild. He acts impulsively, and he often doesn't grasp why certain things are wrong, even when Clem tries to explain. AJ struggles with understanding right from wrong, but not in the usual kid way. Sometimes he knows he's messed up but doesn't fully care because he's so emotionally driven. Other times, even when Clem patiently breaks things down for him, AJ still doesn't fully get it. It's not really his fault though. He's never had the luxury of a stable or normal childhood. So he's emotionally stunted and forced to make decisions way beyond his maturity level. Now, I don't have any kids of my own, but I'd imagine Clem's frustrations with AJ aren't all that different from the struggles real parents deal with, just amplified by the messed up world they live in. She does her absolute best, but without a safe and consistent environment, AJ can't fully develop emotionally, leaving him unpredictable and impulsive. Clem constantly needs to stay hands-on and keep him in check, but even that isn't a guarantee he'll listen or make the right choice. It makes the relationship feel realistic, but also tense, especially as we approach the end of this episode and head into the finale. After AJ leaves the patrol and thinks things over, Violet drops by wanting to talk about their encounter with Minnie. She admits that she thought seeing Minnie again would scare her, but instead it clarified something important. The girl Violet loved, the Minnie she remembers, is long gone. Violet realizes that Minnie can't be saved, not anymore. Instead, Violet's determined to protect the people she still has left, making sure none of them end up like Minnie. She gives Clem a constellation pin she made, and admits she was caught off guard when Clem confessed her feelings. It got Violet thinking though, and now she wants to try something she's never done before. She asks Clem to dance.
Thanks for the dance. Yeah, we're getting better at being romantic.
Yeah.
Sure, it's a little cheesy seeing them dance without music, but honestly, this scene is just so sincere I couldn't help but smile. The budding romance between Clementine and Violet feels genuinely heartfelt, especially compared to a similar scene between Ellie and Dina in The Last of Us Part 2. And that's all I'm going to say about those two, since I know even mentioning that game tends to spark some drama in the comments. After Clem and Violet finish their dance, they'll join the others in setting up the party. The kids set up some nice lighting, throw on some records, and gather around to reminisce about old times. They even share stories about why they were sent to Erickson's school for troubled youth in the first place. Ruby for her anger issues, Willie because of his chronic masturbation problem, and Violet because of her grandmother's suicide, which puzzles Clem, who wonders why Violet wasn't sent to therapy instead. Violet explains that she grew up spending most of her days at her grandmother's house, since her dad was a drunk and her mom had to work 3 jobs. It wasn't perfect, but she loved being with her grandma. Things were good, until her grandfather died. After which, her grandma retreated into herself, barely aware of the world or Violet's presence. One day, while Violet was watching cartoons, her grandma left the room and returned holding a rifle. Without saying a word, she pointed it at her chest and pulled the trigger, her lifeless body rocking silently in her chair. In shock, Violet didn't call for help, and simply sat there watching cartoons until her mother arrived hours later. Instead of understanding that Violet was traumatized, her mother decided there must be something wrong with her daughter, shipping her off to Erickson to become someone else's problem. Violet's story, combined with Ruby and Willie realizing that the majority of their friends have died since the apocalypse began, brings a depressing end to the party. But Violet reminds everyone that despite their faults, and how they ended up at Erickson, none of them deserve to be abandoned by the adults. To lift everyone's spirits, Ten suggests singing the song Minnie used to sing to calm everyone down, and he asks Violet to sing it, and she quietly agrees.
Never mind the darkness. Never mind the storm. Never mind the blood-red moon. The night will be over soon. The night will be over soon. Brush away the sorrow. Brush
grows quiet, and every moon grows blue. Beyond the dark comes something new. The sun will be rising soon. The sun will be rising soon. The sun will be rising soon.
It's a really touching moment. Violet's words bringing the kids closer together, and inspiring hope that everything's going to work out. Leaving off on an optimistic note, the party comes to an end when AJ blows out the candle, and everything goes black. But we got one more heartwarming moment before going on our rescue mission. That night, Clementine has a dream about Lee, similar to the one she had back in Season 2. This time, she's 9 years old again, sitting in the boxcar of the train where Lee first taught her how to survive. Lee asks why she always dreams about being here, and Clem admits this is the place where everything truly started for her. It's where Lee first showed her how to shoot a gun, keep her hair short, and taught her to be strong in a world that would always test her. Despite all the growth and everything she's accomplished since Lee's death, Clementine confides in him that she's scared of failing AJ, and losing the new friends she's made. Lee gently reassures her that it's okay to feel afraid. It means she has people worth caring about. But he reminds Clem to believe in herself. Her friends wouldn't look up to her and trust her if she wasn't capable of leading them. It's a genuinely heartwarming moment, and I'm glad we got one last conversation between Lee and Clementine, even if it's only in a dream. It's a beautiful reminder that for all her strength, Clementine is still a kid who needs reassurance. But their final talk makes her confident enough to show Lee who she's become since his passing.
Wow. Just look at you. Just look at you. Thought I told you to keep this short.
You don't know how hard it is to find scissors these days.
Time to go, Clementine. You've got people that need you.
Goodbye, Lee.
After saying their goodbyes, Clementine wakes up as AJ shakes her gently, telling her it's time to rescue their friends. Under the cover of night, the kids approach the Delta's boat, and this is when Clem introduces James to the others. Despite wearing a mask made out of a walker's face, and his unsettling demeanor, everyone is genuinely accepting of James, especially Willie, who wants to try on his mask. A little overwhelmed, James asks for a word with Clem in private. James tells Clem the walker herd will arrive soon, and he'll guide them to the Delta ship. He admits he wasn't expecting the others to be so accepting of him, and his strange disguise. Clem encourages him to join their group, but James isn't ready to live among people again. Opening up a bit more, he shares a photo he recovered from his camp. It's of him and his boyfriend Charlie, who joined the Whisperers together. But the things they did as part of that group changed them both in ways James deeply regrets. He explains that when he was with the Whisperers, he caused pain and death without a second thought. He once believed so strongly in their philosophy that weakness endangered everyone, he even killed another boy in his group just for showing sympathy towards their enemies. Horrified by his own actions and how numb he'd become, James abandoned the Whisperers, refusing to live that life any longer. He brings this up now because he's worried about AJ, afraid the kid might end up like he did, someone who kills without remorse. Clem promises she'll never let AJ go down that path, and while James hopes she succeeds, I think he might be a bit too naive here. While I completely understand where he's coming from, and appreciate his viewpoint, this is a world where sometimes violence isn't just necessary, sometimes it's unavoidable if you want to protect those you care about. As the walkers approach, James dons his mask again, telling Clem he'll bring the herd to the boat but won't board it with them. Before leaving, he asks Clem one last time to take care of AJ, then disappears into the herd. The kids finalize their plan. Ruby will free the horses, Willie and Ten handle the supplies, while Clem, AJ, and Violet sneak on board to plant the bomb on the ship's boiler. Ten will then ask Clementine to deliver a message to Minnie to tell her that he forgives her before they head out. Clem then joins Violet at the forest's edge, sharing a brief moment to reassure them before covering themselves in walker guts to blend in. James arrives with the herd and they carefully navigate through the chaos, using walkers as shields from the sniper shots. Ruby and the others cause distractions, throwing the raiders into disarray, and giving Clem's group a chance to reach the boat. After narrowly avoiding the walkers and raiders, they manage to sneak onto the ship, ready to find their friends and plant the bomb. Clem, Violet, and AJ will sneak around and take out guards as they search for their friends. Thanks to the long fuse on their bomb, they decide to place it in the boiler first, giving them a half-hour tops to find the others, and get the hell out of there before the boat is blown to smithereens. They eventually find where Lewis and the others are being held, but unfortunately, Minnie is the one guarding them. It's a tense standoff, but Minnie stands down when Clem delivers Ten's message. Seemingly waking up to the fucked up situation she's in with the Delta, Minnie lets them rescue their friends. Asim and Omar are okay, but Lewis is in rough shape, curled up into a ball in his cell. As Clem checks to see what's wrong, Minnie betrays everyone, knocking out Clem and capturing the kids. When Clem comes to, she realizes she's been locked in the cell with Lewis, and oh man, Lewis. Poor Lewis. I don't think I've ever felt so much regret after making a choice in this series. Because I chose to save Violet over him, the Delta really worked him over. For being defiant and refusing to shut up, Lily had his tongue cut out. Seeing the happy-go-lucky jokester kid who was always trying to make people smile, reduced to a broken mess is genuinely heart-wrenching. It's probably the first time since Season 1 where the outcome of a choice felt like it carried so much emotional weight. Usually, the major choices in these games involve one character dying over another, and even then, the survivor sometimes dies soon afterwards anyways, making the decision feel superficial. But here, the game forces you to face the consequences head on. You didn't get Lewis killed, but you almost wish you had considering what they did to him. And things aren't any better if you chose to save Lewis instead of Violet. She becomes hostile towards Clem, and even sides with Minnie, which later leads to her being blinded when the bomb detonates. While this series never really had right or wrong choices exactly, the decisions you make involving Lewis, Violet, and AJ will inevitably leave you feeling terrible no matter what you do. And oof, another choice next episode hit just as hard too. Clem quickly searches for a way out, finding Asim and Omar locked in the adjacent cell, while AJ and Violet are held across from her. AJ secretly passes Clem his hidden knife, but before she can use it, Lily arrives with Minnie. It's immediately clear Minnie has fully bought into the Delta's propaganda. She shows zero remorse for betraying her former friends. Lily confronts Clem, impressed yet annoyed by how much trouble she's caused. She tries intimidating Clem by recalling her own harsh upbringing under Larry, explaining how brutal discipline taught her the value of obedience. Lily then reveals the truth behind Minnie and Sophie's fates. The twins tried to escape the Delta, but Minnie was forced to kill her own sister as proof of her loyalty. Violet is devastated, while Minnie coldly accepts it as necessary. To try and get Clem to fall in line, Lily orders one of her raiders to drag Violet out of her cell to cut off her finger as punishment, though you can prevent her from being maimed if you allow AJ to interfere, which the kid does by biting the raider's ear off. Instead of stomping AJ into the dirt though, Lily is impressed. His temperament, ruthlessness, and age combined with enough discipline, Lily can mold him into a perfect soldier. She takes AJ with her while ordering her soldier to start up the boiler and prepare to set sail. Left alone with Minnie again, she desperately tries to get Clem and Violet to see her way of thinking, that everything will be okay if they just bend the knee and do what Lily tells them. Minnie's breakdown keeps her distracted long enough for Clem to pry off the plating on her cell door and break free. The two struggle, with Minnie briefly gaining the upper hand, until Violet fires an arrow into her shoulder, giving Clem the chance to escape. She quickly frees the others, telling them to get off the ship and regroup on land while she goes after Lily to save AJ. On the deck, Clem finds Lily holding Ten and James at gunpoint, preparing to execute James. Desperate to stop her, Ten grabs a fallen gun and aims it at Lily, begging her to stop, but she calls his bluff, pressing her forehead to the barrel, daring him to shoot. Ten hesitates, breaking down in tears as Lily easily disarms him. Just as she's about to kill Ten, AJ lunges in, biting her hand, giving Clem an opening to attack while James fights off the other raider. Clem and Lily go all out, brutally beating each other in a desperate fight for control, with AJ assisting by stabbing Lily in the leg. Just as Lily goes for a nearby pistol to end things, AJ gets there first.
AJ, wait! I give up. I will give up. Put down the gun. I'll let everyone leave. My crew and I will leave. We won't bother you anymore.
AJ holding Lily at gunpoint, you're presented with the final choice of the episode. Tell him to shoot Lily, or listen to James that she's no longer a threat and spare her instead. Unfortunately, if we listen to James, Lily rewards his mercy by killing him. But if we tell him to shoot, he does, over and over again, as episode 3 comes to an explosive end.
Lily, couldn't find the other. What did you do? You fucking dead!
Shit, the bomb! AJ!
Well, here we are, folks, the final episode of the final season. Throughout this season, I've been considerably positive, especially compared to Season 2 and A New Frontier. I've only had small complaints like Lily's involvement, and the option to romance Violet or Lewis feeling a bit rushed, but nothing major. Episode 4, however, is when the real cracks in this season appear, as the game's troubled development, combined with a shorter episode count, leaves the ending feeling uneven. Certain plot points are dropped or rushed through, while what happens to a few characters feel abrupt or unsatisfying. Let's start with the biggest one, Lily. While I have no problem with AJ gunning her down, and kinda like the idea of the season's main antagonist dying with a full episode to go, if you spared Lily, she just dips. No alternate final fight with her, no revenge for James. She just has some parting words with Clementine before disappearing on a raft, which is just so unsatisfying, even if it's meant to be an ironic death for James. Just a lesson about how pacifism means nothing in a world built on violence, or something like that. However, if you like James, and were happy he survived after AJ turned Lily into Swiss cheese, his character gets completely ruined, which I'll get into in just a bit. Clem regains consciousness after the explosion, finding James and Ten nowhere in sight. Thankfully, AJ is close by, and together they escape the sinking ship safely, though at the cost of Clem losing her favorite hat. They regroup with Lewis, Violet, and the other kids on shore, but the explosion has drawn a massive herd of walkers, making it nearly impossible to escape. Spotting a horse and cage used to transport the captured kids, Clem tells the others to run for it, while she covers their escape. Meanwhile, the remaining Delta members are struggling to fight off the undead, getting picked off one by one, until only Minnie remains. Instead of retreating, Minnie recklessly charges at the walkers, lashing out in rage as her squad is wiped out. It doesn't take long for her to be overwhelmed. First taking a bite to the arm, then losing a chunk of her cheek. Brutal. Still seething with anger, she spots Clem and AJ, and in a last-ditch effort, tries to throw a grenade at them. But a well-timed arrow to her shoulder ruins her aim, sending the grenade off course. As the walkers swarm her, Clem and AJ are left with another problem. The explosion spooks the horse carrying the other kids, causing it to bolt, leaving the two of them stranded. Not all hope is lost, as they spot Ten nearby who leads them away from the chaos. Soon they reunite with James and make a run for it, escaping through a narrow gap in the cliffside that leads into a cave, with a river running through it. But the walkers are still close behind, forcing them to keep moving. It's only after crossing the river and venturing deeper into the cave that they finally get a moment to catch their breath. And then James loses his mind.
You brought this on yourself.
Oh! Clem!
But it's not too late.
Let go!
For him, at least. Follow us and I sprain your ankle. Follow us after that, I break your leg.
I won't let you take him.
I won't let you make him a monster.
If Telltale hadn't gone under, and the team had a full 5 episodes to work with, James's shift in character probably would have been more gradual and made sense. But as it stands, his complete 180 between episodes is jarring. Sure, James has always been naive. He saw Lily ready to execute him, saw her nearly kill 10, and still clings to his ideals of not spreading more violence. Whether or not sparing Lily is the right move, I at least understand his reasoning. What really bothers me is his sudden obsession with keeping AJ pure. I get the whole, he's young, there's still a chance for him to be better type of mindset, but James barely knows AJ. They've known each other for maybe a few weeks, and only interacted a handful of times. It feels completely out of character for him to get so aggressive about separating AJ from Clem. And AJ manages to briefly stop them from fighting, by announcing that he liked killing Lily, which throws off the both of them. But credit where it's due, this scene really highlights how AJ is misinterpreting everything Clem has been teaching him. He's been raised to believe survival comes first, that monsters should be killed, and that protecting the people you care about sometimes means taking a life. In his mind, Lily was bad. He killed her. Now she can't hurt them anymore. So why shouldn't he feel good about it? Why should he feel guilty for eliminating a threat? Despite how clumsily this conversation with AJ is set up, I'd be lying if I didn't admit I was walking on a tightrope with how tense it feels, carefully navigating what I had Clem say to AJ as if one wrong response would send him down a path of no return. It's a chilling moment because AJ isn't being malicious. He genuinely doesn't understand why Clem is upset. To him, he followed her rules to the letter. But what he's struggling with is that he doesn't grasp the nuance of morality. Clem tells him that yes, killing is sometimes necessary, and she's not upset that he shot Lily. She's upset because he enjoyed it. Violence might be unavoidable in this world, but taking pleasure in it? That's dangerous. Just as importantly, he needs to control his emotions, to not let anger or fear dictate his actions. Killing isn't just about pulling the trigger, it's about knowing when to stop. But AJ didn't stop. He kept shooting. In teaching him how to survive, Clem may have inadvertently robbed him of the chance to be a normal kid. And now, when faced with the gray areas of morality, he doesn't know how to process it. Clem is trying to course correct, to help him understand that survival isn't just about killing, but the damage may already be done. James actually does have a point about how Clem is raising AJ, but it doesn't make sense he'd be so aggressive about trying to save him. This scene is trying to do too much at once, bring an end to James's story, hold a spotlight to AJ's increasingly troubling behavior, and most importantly, if Clem's teachings are partially responsible for what AJ's turning into. Honestly, instead of starting a fight and trying to take AJ, it would have made way more sense if James just abandoned them. Walking away with some somber parting words like, "I thought you were different, Clementine. I thought you were good. But now I see you're just like everyone else." Cue sad music and James disappears from the story, never to be seen again. Which is what sorta happens with them anyways. After all this drama comes to a head, James' fate depends on how Clem responds to his pacifist philosophy. He either storms off in frustration, choosing to abandon the group entirely, or he realizes his mistakes and sacrifices himself to hold off the walkers so the others can escape. Either way, the game heavily implies he doesn't make it. Unfortunately, this forced confrontation ends up ruining his character. What started as an intriguing perspective, his belief that walkers might retain some humanity, and his commitment to pacifism, gets twisted into something irrational. Instead of presenting his ideology as a complex moral dilemma, the game turns him into a delusional outlier, someone too out of touch with reality to be taken seriously. His story could have been a fascinating exploration of morality in a world that forces people to kill, but instead it reduces him to little more than a roadblock in Clem and AJ's journey. Before leaving the cave, AJ will approach Clem and ask her to trust him to make the right choices, to trust he'll only kill to protect others and not out of enjoyment, presenting you with the last and also biggest decision of the episode, to trust AJ or not. Which, admittedly, after that conversation we had, there's no way he's mature enough yet to decide things on his own. However, your choice impacts how things play out in the next scene in a huge way. But for now, all I say is that I chose to trust AJ. As they leave the cave, 10 takes a moment to reflect on the vote that decided whether Clem and AJ could stay after Marlon's death. She already knows that 10 and Violet supported them, but he reveals the third person who voted in their favor was a sim. His reasoning? Clem looked like a survivor, and he believed the school would be safer with her there. It's a roundabout way for 10 to lift Clem's spirits after everything that just happened with James, reassuring her that she didn't just save the group, she taught them they didn't have to live in fear. It's a really sweet moment, which makes what happens next all the more devastating. The trio then bump into Violet, who came back to search for them. She and Clem discuss how Violet changed for the better thanks to her. All the kids at Erickson did too. They discuss wanting a fresh start and giving the school a more fitting name. Violet suggests Texas too. As they continue walking, they'll reach a wooden bridge that's falling to pieces, with a gap in it that leads to a huge fall down into the river.
Now that's far.
Really far.
Should be able to jump it. It's not that far.
Yeah, I think we can. We just gotta be careful not to land too hard.
Never mind the storm. Never mind the blood-red moon. The night will be over soon.
Minnie? What?
I did it. I found you. Oh, Ted. My sweet little brother. Come with me.
Oh my god, having Minnie reappear like this is genuinely chilling. It's not just the fact that she's singing the song she once used to comfort Ten and the others, now warped into something haunting. It's the sheer desperation driving her forward. Despite everything she's been through, being broken by the Delta, killing her own sister, betraying her friends, losing the Delta, getting bitten multiple times, and standing on the brink of death, she refuses to stop. Minnie keeps pushing forward, clinging to life through sheer force of will. At this point, she isn't even really a person anymore. She's a ghost, running on nothing but rage and obsession. And I didn't catch this right away, but her return mirrors Lee's final march in Season 1, when he fought through a massive horde to save Clementine. Both are infected and dying, both carve a bloody path through the dead, and both become so drenched in walker remains that they blend in. And like Lee, Minnie's driven by love. Only her love has been twisted beyond recognition. Lee's final act was one of true sacrifice, ensuring Clementine's survival no matter the cost. But Minnie, broken and delusional, believes she's saving Ten by leading him straight to his death. And what makes this even worse is that Minnie gets exactly what she wants. Even though Ten knows his sister is dying, and the others warn him that the girl he once loved is gone, he still can't bring himself to abandon her. In the chaos, Clem tries to hold off both the walkers and Minnie, leading to a brief but brutal struggle. Minnie manages to slice Clem's leg open, but in return, Clem shoots her, sending her stumbling back into the pack of walkers. The smell of fresh blood overrides the walker guts masking her scent, and they finally turn on her. Or at least that's the best explanation I can piece together. The game leaves it ambiguous as to why they didn't attack her before. Despite her injury, Clem manages to leap across the gap, but Ten, still unable to let go of Minnie, hesitates. Violet desperately tries to pull him to safety, but the walkers close in fast. Clem, wounded and unable to do anything, can only watch as the decision is taken out of her hands. Or more accurately, it was made already. If, back in the cave, you chose not to trust AJ with making his own decisions, he falters, lowering his gun and telling Violet to toss Ten over. She does, saving his life, but at the cost of her own, as she's swarmed and killed. But if you did trust AJ, he finds the strength to make the impossible choice. He pulls the trigger and shoots Ten.
Violet, please jump!
Oh my god, no!
That's right. Come with me.
No!
Oof. Poor Ten. I'll be honest, I'm really mixed on how this scene plays out. On one hand, I like that the outcome is tied to your trust in AJ, rather than a straightforward choose who to save moment. It adds weight to the decision you made earlier, reinforcing how much influence Clem has over him. On the other hand, the way the choices play out feels backwards. Trusting AJ leads him to making the hard choice, gunning down Ten to save Violet, while not trusting him results in him hesitating, which gets Violet killed instead. The way their earlier conversation was framed, it felt more like Clem was gauging whether AJ could be trusted to make the morally right choice, not necessarily the hard one. And while I'm glad Violet survives in my playthrough, it still feels like I was being punished for trusting AJ, as if doing so sent him down an even darker path. He doesn't kill Ten without remorse, he's visibly pained by it, but it raises the question of where his motivations will lead him next. He's already learned that survival sometimes means sacrificing those you care about, and this moment might only reinforce that belief. What happens when the next impossible choice comes around? How far will he go? The further he leans into survival above all else, the more he risks isolating himself, not just from other survivors, but maybe even from Clem. It's unfortunately an idea that isn't explored since this is the last episode, and kinda gets undermined with the game's ending. Despite making it across the bridge, Clem, AJ, and Violet still have a lot of walkers to deal with. They try to escape over a fence, but only Violet makes it over as Clem's injury slows her down, and they aren't able to get over in time. She tells Violet to head back to the school while she and AJ will figure out another way home. The pair manage to escape the walkers by scaling a rock wall, but they don't make it out unscathed. A walker sinks its teeth into Clem's leg. She and AJ both know what that means. There's no time to dwell on it. She pushes forward, urging him to keep going. By morning, they finally reach James's barn, not far from the school, but their journey is cut short as another wave of walkers forces them to take shelter inside. Clem is barely holding on. Weak, feverish, and struggling to move, she can't help fortify the barn. Control shifts to AJ, who scrambles to keep them safe, slamming gates shut, taking down walkers, and doing everything in his power to hold their position. He succeeds, but there's no escaping the reality of their situation. A horde still lingers outside, and Clem doesn't have the strength to keep going. She's pale, trembling, the infection rapidly taking hold. AJ refuses to accept it, pleading that they can still make it, that there has to be a way to save her. But Clem reminds him that they prepared for this. He still has a choice. He can cut open a walker and cover himself in its guts to slip away unnoticed. He can take their axe and defend himself. But the one thing he can't do is stay. AJ refuses. He'd rather die with her, just like the walker couple they saw at the train station. But Clem won't let him. No matter how much it hurts, she needs him to honor her final wish and let go.
I need you to live, AJ. For me. That's your job now.
Okay, Clem. That's my job.
Last rule.
No!
What do we do if I get bit? Just leave.
I can't let you turn into a monster.
You have to.
No!
As AJ lifts his axe, everything goes black, and suddenly, a flashback. Years earlier, we see how Clementine found and reunited with AJ at the McCarroll Ranch, which was under siege by unknown raiders. As she rides in, a dying man, presumably part of the ranch's group, mistakes her for an enemy and fires, killing her horse. Clem tries to get answers about AJ, but the man, defiant to the end, refuses to speak. Inside, she encounters another man caught in a shootout. He too assumes Clem is with the raiders and immediately opens fire. Forced to defend herself, she takes him down and demands to know where the children are. He directs her to the nursery, but still believing she's a threat, he makes a last-ditch effort to stab her. Clem has no choice but to kill him. Reaching the nursery, she finds a woman frantically searching a locker. Before Clem can ask about AJ, the woman draws a gun, leaving Clem no choice but to defend herself again. Only afterwards does Clem realize the woman had been holding a baby bottle. When she opens the locker, she finds a terrified AJ curled up inside. At first, he doesn't recognize her, shrinking away when she reaches for him. But Clem manages to coax him out, only for him to see the body of his caretaker, sending him into a fresh wave of panic. She quickly scoops him up and escapes in a car that had crashed through the ranch gates, the same one from the beginning of the season. Unable to return to Richmond due to some unspecified war in the area, making it impossible to go back, Clementine takes off, her next destination unknown. This moment is the root of Clem's nightmares. The horror she saw that day, the guilt of killing the very people who protected AJ, and worst of all, the knowledge that her actions caused this trauma. It's an incredible reveal, adding so much depth to Clem's motivations in raising AJ. It wasn't just about survival, it was about redemption, making amends for the choices she had to make. But my issue is where this reveal happens. Dropping it right as AJ is about to kill Clem makes no sense. If anything, it should have been the opening of the episode. Clem reliving this memory before waking up on the burning ship. That would have reframed her choices throughout the episode, making her actions feel even more personal. Instead, it's placed here at the last second, seemingly just to answer the lingering question about her nightmares, and in doing so, it completely disrupts the pacing of the finale. After the flashback, we cut to AJ in the present, spearfishing alone with Rosie at his side. After he's done, he'll spot Clementine's hat floating down the river, and manages to recover it with Rosie's help. As he's prepared to leave, he freezes up when spotting a walker. It's 10. Pulling his gun, he's still filled with regret in killing his first friend, hesitating on what he should do next. I have AJ just throw a rock to lead him away. He shouldn't have to kill his friend twice. As AJ walks back to Erickson, we're treated to a slow walking sequence beautifully scored to the song Take Us Back, which unfortunately is copyrighted, so instead, here's That's the Way It Is from Red Dead Redemption 2.
The many miles we walk, the many things we learn, the building of a shrine, only just to burn. That's the way it is. That's the way it is.
When AJ arrives at the school, all the other kids passing him by, he finds someone waiting for him. Clementine. Come on, you didn't think they were going to kill her off, did ya? When faced with a choice of killing Clem or leaving her to turn, AJ took a third option, lopping off her infected leg. And it worked. Clem was only infected for a couple hours at most, so it's not unreasonable to think she'd avoid turning by removing her leg. I'll be blunt, Clementine surviving is 100% a cop-out. Everything from shaping the kind of person AJ would grow up to be, to the constant discussions about what he should do if something happened to her, to Clem getting infected and spending the second half of this episode barely clinging on, pointed to her possibly not making it. Honestly, multiple endings would have made more sense. Ones where your choices determined whether Clem lived, died, or even if AJ went down with her. But like I've said dozens of times already, considering the game's troubled development, we were lucky to get any ending at all. That said, I still like this ending. As much as I can acknowledge it as a cop-out, I'm happy Clementine made it. I've grown way too attached to her over the course of this series. Watching her go from a scared little girl to a capable young woman has been the best part of The Walking Dead, even when the writing didn't always hold up. So yeah, I'm glad my little sweet pea got her happy ending. She's earned it, and the way the game closes is really heartwarming. After everything they've been through, Clementine finally lets her guard down. For the first time, she admits just how hard it's been, how scared she's been. She never had a plan, never knew if she was making the right choices. She feared that one day AJ would realize she didn't actually know what she was doing, that he'd stop believing in her. But through all the struggles, the mistakes, and the impossible choices, she kept going, hoping she was doing right by him. And now, with everything behind them, she finally summons the courage to ask the question that's been weighing on her for so long.
Did I do a good job?
Of course you did. What are you crazy?
Maybe a little.
A lot more than a little.
When we were in the barn, you didn't listen to me. And if you had, I'd be dead. I was right to trust you, back in the cave. To make the hard calls, even when I couldn't. You'll have to be strong for the both of us.
You made it so I can. So, thank you. For everything.
You're welcome for everything.
And that was The Walking Dead, the final season. After the emotional highs and lows, you get one last moment controlling AJ as he walks through the halls of Erickson, the credits listing the names of the still not bitten team, the people who made this finale possible. The game ends with AJ placing Clementine's hat down in their room, a quiet but hopeful way to close the book on this series. Man, what a ride. I said at the beginning of this video that I didn't have high hopes going in, given how much the last 2 seasons dropped in quality. But despite that, and the fact that this game was nearly cancelled when Telltale went under, the final season managed to deliver a genuinely satisfying conclusion. By scaling back the scope of the story and focusing on a smaller, more personal cast, the final season recaptured what made the original so special. The shift to a contained setting like Erickson gave the game a sense of home, making Clem's fight to protect it feel more meaningful. AJ's emotional development became the heart of the journey, forcing players to reflect on their own morals as they shaped the kind of person he would grow up to be. Even the optional romances, which had actual build-up and chemistry, added emotional weight rather than feeling tacked on. All of these elements came together to create an experience that rivals the original season in quality. It's not perfect though. Lily's return felt underutilized, James's character was completely mishandled, and as much as I liked the ending, it was definitely a cop-out. If Telltale Games hadn't collapsed and the team had just one more episode to let everything breathe, I think this game could have surpassed the original. But even with all its flaws, I'm grateful that the still not bitten team got to finish the story they wanted to tell, to give Clementine a real ending. And now, after all these years, I can finally say I saw this journey through to the end. And I'm glad I did. And that's the video. Thanks for watching, folks. And special thanks to my channel members and patrons, including Alfred Correa, Augie Doggy, Bailey Morrison, Chicken D Samurai, Eric Lee, Miles Garrett, Skillfuse, SR Pala, and Reckless Nerd. Sorry for being so late with this one, guys. What I wanted to open for February ended up closing it instead. I was really engaged with this story and I got caught up doing a lot of rewrites on the script, along with my personal life slowing down my work a bit. But now that it's finally finished, I can move on to some easier projects. Next up is Watch Dogs 2. Thankfully, I'm done playing it already, and have my first draft of the script done. I'm going to avoid giving it a release date, since I pretty much jinx myself every single time into missing the deadline. So let's say early March. Might do a Mafia compilation video soon too. Afterwards, I have another Ubisoft title I'll be covering. It's going to be a slightly different video for the channel, so hopefully you guys tune in. From there, I'm not sure. Might put it to a poll again. Since I knocked out Max Payne 2 already, and now Watch Dogs 2 is up next, that leaves Yakuza 2 from the last poll I did. I've been dying to go back to this series, and I've been curious to see how different the original version of Yakuza 2 is to Kiwami 2, so it should be fun. I brought it up months ago, but I wanted to look at the more modern Sony titles, and Days Gone was the unanimous winner of the poll I did. And with it getting a remaster, now's a good time to bang it out. Again, thanks for watching, folks. If you're new to the channel, be sure to leave a like and comment down below. Did you like the final season of The Walking Dead? The game? Are you watching any of the TV spin-off shows? Which Telltale game should I check out next? Leave your thoughts down below. And if you're new to the channel, I'd love it if you subscribed. Hoping to get that silver plaque this year. Just a little over 15k subs to get it, so any support is greatly appreciated. I'm FuzzySlippers, and I'll see you later. Peace.